context for the Cat Empire before we made the debut album with Andy Baldwin was that we'd been able to generate some really great live following. You know, we'd made a couple of really thrown together sort of live albums, you know, CDs in those days, and we played Adelaide Festival, then this stint in near San Francisco in the Napa Valley, and then we'd played at the Edinburgh Festival, and we'd sort of made our bones as a live band, and we came back to Melbourne and we were selling out rooms. You know, it was getting really, really exciting. But we'd never released an album properly, and the thought of a commercial release was totally out of our radar, or for me at least it was. Because we were just live musicians. I'd been doing gigs with Ollie since, you know, I was in my early teens pretty much, and we'd never really entered into the commercial music space. We were a band that got booked to play late at night. We were a band that played long and hard and was sort of interesting. And anyway, we got together with Andy Baldwin. The way we discovered Andy was at Ollie's place, and we're listening to an album that Paul Kelly did called Professor Ratbag. He was a sort of an alias for him, and it was really dubby and weird, but we kind of liked the production. It was really full on and interesting, and we looked at the credits in the CD booklet. That's what we used to do, and Andy Baldwin's name was there, and they'd worked together, and so we got in touch, and he came to some shows, and his personality immediately clicked with the band. He had a great love of celebration, of food, of drinking, of bringing people together, and it was sort of an immediate fit, and that's a friendship that's lasted my whole career so far. And for the first album, you know, we weren't used to playing in the studio at all. You know, we were used to playing live and then sort of rough, and there was a sort of a looseness to the band that really suited us, but in the studio we had to sort of learn how to, you know, refine songs to a certain length and stuff, and Andy sort of helped us with that, but we also gave ourselves a lot of time for it. So we started at Sing Sing Studios, which has, you know, been a great place for me and the band over many years. That unfortunately that studio is now gone. It's a part of, you know, Melbourne music history. And we did the rhythm tracks there, and then I think we went up to the hinterland of Byron Bay, to this macadamia nut farm that a distant cousin of mine, who I barely knew at the time, you know, let us use. And we, you know, put mattresses against the wall. We did all sorts of weird stuff, like putting mics out into a field. We just recorded heaps of atmosphere, and you know, we'd drive, you know, 20 people up in an old Commodore station wagon to, you know, to get some sort of party scene for a song that night. We just recorded heaps of stuff and had an amazing time. It was genuinely, even though I look at those songs, they seem sort of so immature sometimes, or so youthful, but the fact is we were really living the experience of those songs at that time. We were having a lot of house parties and playing all through the night. And, you know, to try and make a bit of money on the side, we'd go down to the Beach Hotel in Byron and play shows, and those shows would sell out and they'd spill out into the beach, and it was just a kind of a wild time. Anyway, after having recorded for about a month or so in the nut farm with Andy, and Jan Skupaszewski was there as well as a kind of a young assistant at that time, we went back to Melbourne, recorded more. That album took about 9 or 10 months to record, and we'd focus in on the smallest details. We were totally pedantic. We didn't know what we were doing, but what Andy brought was like, if you could add more, then you should add more, and he's always been like that, and I love that about him, you know. And we did. We added more and more and more, and what we ended up with was this sort of really exuberant, overflowing, you know, highly energetic album that became, you know, most people's introduction to the Cat Empire. And it still sort of holds a place in my heart as that moment where we said, oh, the Cat Empire is going to be an adventure. It's going to be about traveling. It's going to be about bringing people on a journey with us. It's going to be about more, you know, more people than just those who are in the band. Sort of a broader musical, creative, chaotic friendship group that's followed us around the world since then. And Andy's, you know, I think, you know, very responsible for helping us put that onto an album and sort of squeeze all of that excessive energy into one, you know, collection of songs. And honestly, when it released, it was amazing. Like, we never dreamed as young sort of live working musicians that we'd have an album that would go many times platinum. It just wasn't anywhere on our radar, you know. And our manager Correne had also, come on board before then, and she was young too, and she came from outside the music industry, but she was so much part of that adventure as well, and she believed in the fact that a band as diverse and as different as us could actually cross into a popular music market in Australia, which at that time was really kind of dominated by pop and rock and more definable bands. And we weren't a definable band, we were something really different.